Good evening and welcome to the first of two Inside Government shows brought to you by Cayuga Community College, shown on Spectrum, Verizon Fios, as well as ARMA, the Auburn Regional Media Access, and WIN 89.1. I'm your host, Guy Cosentino. We are delighted to have in the studio Cayuga County Legislative Chairman Jonathan Anna, who is an independent. He's in his 11th month as chairman of the 11-member body. Elected 2 years ago to his first term, he represents Ira, Sterling, and Victory. We've asked him on to talk about the status of the Cayuga County budget. There was a recent report last month. There's about a $9.5 million gap between revenues and expenses. We're also talking about the county office building and local economic development issues, specifically around Micron, and we might get into some other things. Welcome back.
Oh, it's good to be here, Guy. Thank you.
So this is the second time you've been here as chairman. It is a little bit different. I can only think that the weight of the world is on you right now because you are really pressed on the budget. So first of all, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. You know, we have our challenges. Cayuga County has its challenges, but I believe that we have an opportunity to make an impact and to help make up for what I call maybe the sins of the past per se. You know, we're really working hard right now to reduce spending and come up with a budget that I believe is fiscally responsible and sets the county on the right steps to move forward into the future.
So let's talk about the budget first, then we'll get to the county office building, because not that they're linked, but it's almost a cascading effect of issues you have in front of you. Okay. So where are you in the legislature today? So as we taping, people might notice you have a sticker on. You have about a little less than 2 hours to go to the polls if you haven't voted yet here on Election Day as we tape on Tuesday. So where are we on the 4th of November with the county budget and the legislature?
So tomorrow we'll be having a meeting to vote on overriding the tax cap. Okay. And then Monday I'll be presenting the budget.
So you have to adopt the budget by when?
November 15th, I believe.
November or December?
Well, I have to present my tentative budget by November 15th, and then it goes to Ways and Means, and then they have 14 days to respond, and then it's the middle of December that we have to pass the budget by.
So let's talk about what happens if you get to that deadline, because it has occurred maybe twice in my recent memory. Mm-hmm. My recent memory goes back about 40 years, so that will tell you something.
Well, my memory goes back about 40 years too. We're just at different points in life at that
exactly.
time, right?
So in that particular case, if the legislature doesn't approve the budget you present, because they don't have a vote or they vote no, the budget you present is what goes into effect.
Correct. That's what becomes law. Yep.
So can you so we're going to get to the tax cap in a second, but on the budget you present, you can't override the tax cap in your budget proposal, can you?
Well, I can, but they
still have to vote on it.
They still have to vote on it. If I present a budget that's over the tax cap as my tentative budget, and they don't vote to override the tax cap, those additional funds are set aside, and we cannot utilize those funds.
Until they do.
No, it would sit there.
Oh.
And then the next year, those funds that are set aside would be what we could use based upon whatever the tax rate is. Those funds would have to use first before any additional funds could be used.
Okay.
So it's kind of like putting it away in a lockbox and you can't touch it and then it'd be held for the next year.
And it's not even part of your fund balance then. It's
Correct.
It's a separate.
And that's where the risk is, because our fund balance is low right now. We're outside our fund balance policy.
Which is about what?
$18 to $24 million, representing approximately like 12% of our overall budget.
And what's your goal? What is this New York State Comptroller tells you? What's your body's goal? You in the legislature, what's your goal?
Well, our goal is to reduce that number. You know, my first year on the ledge, prior to my election, the budget that was passed in 2023 for the 2024 year had a $7.2 million draw.
Okay.
Last year, there was a budget that was passed. The budget that was presented was around a $6.5 or $6.2 million draw, and we were able to reduce that down to a 5.6. So my goal this year is to reduce it down further. I've been operating off a number anywhere between to try to get between $2 to $3 million remaining in the fund balance.
Okay. I told you I'm not going to get into math.
That's okay.
But let me give you the Lynn Marinelli math. She's your budget person.
Budget director.
Budget director of the county. So last month, she said, if I'm correct on here, with a 3% increase in sales tax, with going up to the tax cap at that time might have been 2.87.
We're looking at about 2.86, 2.87.
Okay.
Yep.
You still had between revenues and expenses on the wish list of employees, you still had about a $9.5 million.
It was actually 9.9.
Okay.
Yeah, so without any increase at all, it was about 11.2 with no taxes. Taxing at the cap would bring it down to about 9.9.
So even if you use $2 million of your fund balance, you're still at 7.9.
Oh no, if we don't override the tax cap, and then we don't make reduction in spending, we'd be on a hook for about $9.9 million. Still.
Okay.
Right.
So, and this is what, I got a viewer question on this. They said, why did they release a number of 9.9, let's use that number, where it had a wish list? Why did...
Well, it's not really a wish list. I think that's a bad way to say it, right?
Because but that's what a viewer took it as.
And that's not really what it is. So what happens is we have a budget. And then as we prepare the budget, it's about a 2-month process prior to now that I sit down with all the department heads. And they bring me their budgetary request. And then we go line through line, they explain it. And most of the departments, truthfully, have kept their budgets in line. They didn't ask for a lot of additional spending.
So of that 9.9, you've already cut what would be things that people want extra.
Well, no, not exactly. So the 9.9 represents, increases in salary, increases in foster care, increases in safety net, Medicaid, retirement, healthcare for our employees. These are built-in costs, salary increases, New York State retirement increases, expenses at the jail, and those continue to increase.
So you have a perfect storm of expenses right now.
We do, because right now our expenses continue to rise. The state requires additional mandates onto the counties, so at the same time you have these mandates from the state.
Which are not necessarily funded.
Correct. So you have I'm going to use my hands for a minute, so I apologize to viewers to demonstrate, but the cost of mandates continue to rise while the funds provided by the state and federal government continue to decrease. So that gap continues to widen. So in that 9.9, it's not that there's a lot of fat. It's the fact that we have rising costs of doing business. And the state continues to pass down their mandates and pass down, Albany passes bills. A few years ago, well, last year at this time, it was a year ago, because last year we had the state, the assembly races, and I'm sitting in my home one morning getting my kid ready for breakfast, breakfast for school, and I'm watching the advertisements, because this time of year, last year it was advertisements all day, and I'm watching them, and state officials are on TV saying, we didn't raise your taxes, but that's not true. What's true is Albany increased their budget by $1 billion, and they didn't pass that on to you and I in the form of income taxes. What they've done, and a lot of that, is many of those expenses are passed on to the counties because we are the ones that administer state government.
So there was a ballpark, and I've heard former chairs who have said I think we've had chairs here since 2000.
Right.
So the number that I usually get is somewhere between 85% and 92% of the county budget you have no control over.
I'm comfortable saying 70. That's kind of what
you think so?
Well, I don't know what the real percentage is, and even yesterday I called our auditors to have to get some information from them, and they used the number 70. Now I believe it's higher than that, but I don't want to get hung to 85 to 92 because there are costs. But that is.
But at least 2/3 of this you can't touch.
It's mandated cost, right? And then to have those mandated costs, we also have employees, and so take social services for example. Social services is a lot of reimbursements. However, many of the positions are only reimbursed at 66 to 33%. So even those positions that are reimbursed are not 100% funded in every category.
So as you prepare for your meeting tomorrow without a tax cap vote, what do you see? Is the gap still 9.9 as far as you're concerned?
Well, no, it's not.
Okay.
I've reduced spending. So far, I've taken a look at the budget, and we've reduced, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but somewhere between, $40 million, $5 million we've been able to cut so far.
So you're down, but you're still at $4 to $5 million where you have a gap.
We still have a serious gap. And what people have to realize is Cayuga County does not have the property tax levy to make that up easily. So 1% tax hike in Cayuga County is only equal to $454,000.
Okay, so this is where we get, and we're going to leave away for a second, the 2% tax cap is a mathematical formula, again, from Albany. It does not necessarily mean, as I've told viewers for the last 7 years, it can be different. It's done by a calculation from the New York State Comptroller's Office.
That is correct.
So the last time, I think Lynn Marinelli said the number was 2.87, but I don't think that was an official number at that point.
No, it fluctuated a little bit because of the college chargebacks.
Okay.
But it's an arbitrary number. And years ago, I think the Cuomo administration put it in, but there was incentives to stay below the cap, and they provide the counties with additional funding for staying below the cap. No longer exists. The cap exists, but there's no help from Albany to stay under the cap.
So you've had at least 2 publicly advertised discussions about the overriding the tax cap.
Correct.
How many votes, by the way, would you need to override that? You haven't had an official vote.
We
yet.
haven't had an official vote. The discussion's been tabled both times, and to your viewers, that just means placed on hold. I need 7 votes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I do my math, you got about 5, this is today, and before the election is over. You have 6 Democrats.
Yep.
You have 3 Republicans, but
Four-
you
four Republicans.
4 Republicans,
Yep.
but you also have Hans Petcher, who's a conservative, who
Well, 3 Republicans, Mr. Petcher,
Petcher.
conservative, yep.
who caucus together.
Yep.
And do you caucus with anybody?
I currently caucus with the Democrats.
Okay,
Yep, I
so
still do.
it's really 6-4.
It is.
Okay. But that's, as of today, there's an election, as we were talking beforehand. We have Mr. Pendergrass versus Legislator Sargent. And again, people have about an hour and 45 minutes to go to the polls if they live in that legislative district. You need 6 votes to override.
I need 7.
So you need 7.
Yes.
So you have to have a bipartisan vote.
I believe the vote will be bipartisan.
You do think? Okay.
Yes, I
So
do.
have you met with either caucus?
I met with the Republican caucus last week. I'm meeting with the Democrat caucus today.
So what did the GOP tell you?
Right now, it's kind of mixed, but I currently do have support to override the tax cap, I believe.
And in the Democrats, you're going to meet with them this afternoon,
Yep.
later today.
And there is support there as well. Again, mixed, but there is support there.
And so when you say override the tax cap, by how much? Or is it not a number at this stage?
Well, that's not a number at this stage, right? We're
It won't be a number tomorrow.
It won't be a number tomorrow. It'll be
Okay.
a number that gets presented when I present my tentative budget.
You got a feeling what you're...
I do, but I'm not going to
Okay,
up today.
but
so
you have
fair
an
enough.
idea.
I do.
But that still is going to require, you can't go up, if I do my math correctly, you're not looking at a 12% tax increase, which would close your gap.
Well, I can't speak to that. I think that right now, the primary focus right now has to be looking at the fund balance, has to be looking at our expenditures. And I think the last thing we want to do as a county is to put ourselves in a position where we're repeating this next year.
Okay.
You know,
But to close that gap of
to close
5
that
million.
gap would be more than that.
Okay.
You know, and if we were to close this gap without making cuts, we'd be looking at 20 to 25%. And I can assure you that is not going to happen.
So tell me where we go from here.
As far as the budget?
Yes.
All right. So what's going to
I
happen?
know where you're going in a few minutes. You're going
That's
to go meet
okay.
with the caucus. But
Right,
where are
but-
you going? Where are you on the budget now,
Yeah,
as
so-
far as you're concerned?
Well, so where we are in the budget is putting together the final numbers. I'm meeting with the budget director almost daily right now and putting together our very final numbers. We're still having some changes in numbers, doing some insurance updates and waiting for some numbers to come back. But right now we're going to override, tomorrow night we're going to take a vote, hopefully override the tax cap.
By the way, what happens if you don't?
Well, then I go back to the drawing board and I have to come up with more cuts.
Okay.
You know, and that's something I don't want to do. You know, I think we've made, already I've looked at this budget. I've made a lot of cuts in this budget, and I've worked with both parties and had conversations. I believe we've had meetings throughout the last month and a half, which is more transparency than any chair in recent memory has done. I've taken the time to speak to legislators about their thoughts on the budget, which is typically not something that occurs. It's the chairman's budget, as the budget officer. Normally it's kind of a closed process, and I made it a very open, transparent process this year. And I think I have to, because this isn't a regular budget season. We're in a point of, you know, legislators say we're in a fiscal crisis, and truthfully, I'm tired of being in a fiscal crisis. It's time to look and solve problems.
So whatever the effect tomorrow of a vote, your expectation is you'll release a budget next week?
Correct. My goal is to release the tentative budget on Monday night.
Okay. By the way, we talked about Albany. I did want to, have you started to get any trickle-down effect from the big, beautiful budget bill or the government shutdown? I know obviously SNAP is an issue right now.
SNAP's the big one right now.
And we're going to do a show on that next week.
Right, and I'd read recently that I heard that SNAP could, funding could be restored temporarily or on
it's
basis.
partial.
Partial, as soon
Okay.
as Wednesday. I don't know if that'll occur or not. We have listed a group of food banks. We have listed a group of food pantries on our website to help with families. I know there's community action right now to help provide food for people in need.
But it's not like the county can make up that gap.
Correct. We're not able to make up that gap. And one of the things that the Big Beautiful Bill did out of Washington is, well, years ago, let's talk about SNAP and SNAP administration. We used to have our SNAP administration at the county level used to be 100% reimbursed. Then the state dropped off their funding, and our administrative costs were then only reimbursed by 50%. So 0 from the state, 50% by the federal government. Now it's the new Big Beautiful Bill dropped that from 50% down to 25%. So again, as I stated earlier, the cost keeps going up while the funding keeps going down.
You want to leave the budget for a few minutes?
Sure, I'd love to.
So let's talk about something else is on your plate, and that is, well, let me ask you this first. Who is Campus Construction Management?
So Campus Construction Management is a group out of Rochester, New York. They were hired. We put on an RFP to get some professional management on the county office building. Their first scope of work was to come up with a cost estimate of what remediation and remodeling of the building would be. Also to give us an idea what building would look like potentially as well if we were to build off-site somewhere else or on-site at the county office building current site.
So in September, the end of September, they made a presentation. What did they tell you all?
So right now, so let me give you a little update. So the county office building was built in 1966. The building was built, let me put it this way. There's supposed to be no vermiculite in the building. So as you know, the building was closed because of vermiculite. We did some...
and everybody's out of the building. There's nobody in the building.
There's no one in the building.
Okay.
Everybody's out of the building. The building tested positive for vermiculite throughout the floors. What happened was, if you remember, about a year and a half ago, we had a really severe thunderstorm, ripped part of the roof off the building.
Right.
That rainwater penetrated into the building, which is what caused the vermiculite to clump up and show itself more than it had, previously. That testing revealed that a large amount of vermiculite was in the building. At that time, the state recognizes vermiculite as an asbestos-containing material, and we had to vacate the building. What campus did was they come in and did an evaluation. Come to find out, there was supposed to be no vermiculite in the building. What I think is supposed to be all foam board insulation. When they built it in '66, it looks like when they came in, they kind of filled the gaps with vermiculite, which wasn't part of the scope of the work.
And so is there asbestos, have you tested positive for asbestos?
So we ran asbestos testing in the basement of the building, and the basement has been contaminated for asbestos.
Okay.
So that's another scope of work. So campus came in, they took an evaluation of the building, took an evaluation of what it would take to remediate the building, estimate the cost of remediation, estimate the cost of removable objects with the remediation, and then potentially the cost of construction to redo the building.
So the top price is $69 million for a new building?
That would be with remediation and the
because you still have to remediate. You're still going to have a building at the end of the process.
Correct.
So to remediate the building, building new building.
You're looking at about $9 million of remediation and moving out of the building.
Okay, and that does not include the acquisition of land, if you had to.
Well, that's just for the current county office building, remediation of the building.
No, what I'm saying is their $69 million project was a new...
Oh, a new building. Oh,
new
that's
building.
Correct. That does not include the acquisition of land.
And does that mean the 69 has another $9 million added to it for remediation if you can get rid of 160 Genesee Street?
No, I believe some of that was built in.
Okay.
You're looking at about a $70 million project potentially.
So not that the legislature's not got enough on their plate right now, but where are you in this process? Because you are we'll get to the rents in a second, but you are renting places, which is costing the county money as well. Where's the legislature on all this as to come to a decision?
Yeah, so what we did, we had campus come in. I'm waiting for one more presentation of numbers. We're getting through the budget process, and I plan on presenting it to the legislature once we're through this budget process and make a decision and start action by first quarter of next year.
Okay. So I mentioned there's some rents. So you've got the county office building is cleared, but you've got people at the old HSBC or Marine Midland, depending on your age, building on the corner of North and Genesee. You've got people up here at the county office building have been moved up to the
the college. Actually, the college is a great partner.
Thank you.
We're not really exchanging.
Not thanking me, but I'll thank on behalf of President Durant.
Yeah, Dr. Durant and the college have been great partners.
But you've got half of them there. You've got some people at motor vehicles over at the sheriff's department. Do you need to move anybody else at this stage?
Right now, I'm still looking for a place for our emergency management office.
Okay.
We're not looking really to lease space for them per se.
Where are they now?
They're working remote out of a fire department.
And so some of these leases are going to be up within 2 years.
Correct. The big one's 63. That's where social services is.
63 Genesee.
63 Genesee.
But you have a renewal in there, but it's a lot of money, as you've been told over and over again in letters to the editor.
Yes.
So in that particular case, do you think you will have resolved the idea of a new building and be in a new building or renovated building by the time that lease is up for the first round?
No.
Okay.
And I need to clarify that lease was signed prior to me becoming chairman. That
yes,
was all
I should have
done
said
before
that.
me. This is my first year. But I am looking at alternatives.
Okay.
As you stated, the lease is not really, I don't think, price friendly or cost friendly. And the renewal terms are not really in our favor, so I am in the process.
But you've already done, is it $1 million worth of renovations
Well,
already?
but see, some of that is in furniture costs and
Okay.
IT costs, and
Which
those
can
items
move.
will all be moved. So those aren't hard, those aren't like invested into the building themselves.
2 viewer questions. First
Yes.
one is there a master directory somewhere about where all the offices are? So somebody came into this building, for example, a couple of weeks ago, we're looking for Veterans Affairs. They have never moved. They're still in the DA's
Yep.
office downtown.
Yep.
But is there, that person went into the clerk's office and they said, we don't have a list right now. Is there a master list of where everybody is?
It's on the website, but that's a good observation that potentially, I never thought somebody'd walk in the county clerk's office and ask for Veterans Affairs, and
Well, I think they were sent here because nobody knew where to send them.
yeah, so it's on our website. We have a
Okay.
list of where all our offices are, but I think that'd be a good idea to have the different county offices.
A second viewer question is there's a sign in front of the 63. It's a CSEA union sign, and someone asked, should there be union signs in front of a county office building?
So our union is CSEA. They're
Right.
our workers. I think the sign just supports our workers. The union did reach out to me. This is something they've done
So
in the
they have
past.
permission to
They
do
have
it.
permission to do
Okay.
it. I gave them permission to do it based upon past practice, and they've done it in the past.
2 last questions because of today is you have a special election.
Yeah.
We mentioned Amy Sargent and Michael Pendergrass for the permanent filling of Stephanie DeVito's seat. So whoever wins today, if Ms. Sargent wins today, Legislator Sargent wins today, she stays on for the next
She'll
2.5.
finish Stephanie's term, correct.
If Mr. Pendergrass wins, does that mean he's sworn in as soon as the election is certified?
My understanding is, I actually don't know the answer to that. I thought it was January, but
Oh, okay.
I've been under the impression it's been January, but I don't know that
Only
answer for
because
sure.
one of those 2 people is going to vote on a budget.
Correct.
And you have an override vote tomorrow night.
Correct.
Okay, that's why I'm asking. So let's get off the 2 issues of your building and the budget. Economic development. Last time you were on here in the spring, we talked about the idea that the county, before you, defunded the one stop at 2 State Street. In fact, that's where your offices are now in the
It is.
Chamber of Commerce building. That money has disappeared, correct?
Actually, I can't speak to those funds, but I will say that for the 25 or the 26 budget, I have budgeted money for economic development.
So where are you in the county? I know there's a whole go-around about Cayuga County Industrial Development Authority not going with an offer for the 3rd floor of City Hall. We're not going to retread that.
Nope, that's
but where is the county and the city? I know you and the mayor have met.
Yep.
The mayor was here a couple weeks ago. He said you were meeting
Yeah.
2 days later. Where are you on a one-stop?
So the mayor and I, we started our conversations, and I actually spoke to the mayor about economic development, and I've had to speak with various boards and members of boards. It's important to me that we get to a one-stop. So I started these roundtable conversations, and I invited the city, the city IDA. I invited the CCIDA, SBDC, CCDC, and they all came to the table, and I challenged them to come up with a plan of economic development and then come back to me. And they did. It was that meeting where, and during that time, the mayor came up with this idea of, having everybody at City Hall, because again, they're in a cash strapped position as well, and they've offered office space to everyone.
But they weren't going to charge you any money.
They weren't going to charge us rent, but there were some chargebacks as far as utility usage per se, I believe, was
Okay.
part of it. The CCIDA decided to go in a different direction. They have a board, they have the right to do that. But there is money being set aside for next year. Next year is to bring everybody, next year is to give support money. It's to give, I don't want to use the word seed money, but it allows to support all the agencies at once. The money I've set aside is not for just one specific agency.
So
to
would that
support
need
everybody.
to bring CIDA and CAPUSA, the Cayuga County Utility Power Authority, all into one spot, or is,
That's the eventual goal, you know.
because CCIDA will have their own lease that goes for a certain term. They've done a
Correct.
build out, and I don't know, does Cayuga County, does CAPUSA have staff?
I do not believe CAPUSA has any staff.
Okay. So do you see them as an economic development?
I see them as a utility, similar to like the Cayuga County Water and Sewer Authority.
Okay.
They're a public, because they're a public utility.
Because the city said, I think here, that they were not part of the discussions because they weren't seen as an economic development
But they have
agent.
but they have members that serve on both boards that were present
Okay.
at those meetings, so they weren't totally excluded.
So as far as you're concerned, your goal is still to get to that one stop.
It is. I think the Camoin report is very specific in how that works, and those are the goals to continue moving towards the Camoin report.
What is the county doing right now? You're an appointing officer for all these Micron committees.
Mm-hmm.
Have they been reporting to you? Where are they in their process?
Yeah, so when I came on, there was the Micron Steering Committee had been disbanded prior. Chairman Gould, former Chairman Gould, came to me because he was leading that committee, and the committees are still being, so the steering committee's been restarted, and Chairman Gould's been leading those committees.
And have they made recommendations to you in the legislature yet of specific action?
We have not received any recommendations at this time yet.
Do you expect to?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
So I want to ask you real quickly on this, not so much the ICE raids on September 4th, though that's right on the border of your district where it occurred.
It is.
There is legislation being proposed at the county legislature about non-cooperation agreement. Where does that, with law enforcement, where does that stand right now? Is that on your agenda?
It's not on my agenda. I know there's a couple legislators that would like to see that brought forward. Right now, the sheriff's office has a policy regarding immigration that states that they do not enforce administrative enforcement. The sheriff's made it very clear that the only reason they were there was because there was also a criminal warrant, which he believes was of a non-immigration matter, and that's why they're there to supply support. However, I've been assured by the sheriff that if it was for immigration only, that they would not have participated at the level they did.
So you wouldn't, at this particular stage, say you're not supportive of a non-cooperation agreement right now?
Correct, I am not.
Okay. Last item, I hope, talking about is when you were on here last, you were just about ready to talk about county leadership and naming a committee to look at the structure, whether you went with a county executive, went with the county administrator, which has now been vacant, what, 4 or 5 years?
Correct.
Or what is in essence right now what you're doing by default
Yep.
as the chief budget officer. Have you appointed a committee?
We haven't, it's going to be a charter commission.
Okay.
The charter commission has not been appointed at this time. We have had conversations with both Republican and Democrats. There is support for it, and we just started moving forward with it a couple months ago as far as the direction, and our county attorney's office is issuing guidance and looking into this as well.
When do you see that being named, if at all?
You know, it would be sometime next year.
Which leads me to the big question. You're having so much fun right now.
Oh, well, I'll
Do you
tell
want to
what.
do this again in January?
I will serve at the pleasure of the legislature if they put me back where I am.
So you
and I'm
are
happy to do
interested in
so.
that?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I think consistency is key, and I think we need to show consistency of leadership across the county.
So chairman serves at a year at a time right now?
Correct.
And so that'll be voted on at the first of the year?
January 2nd, I believe.
Okay. So this is apparently the favorite question of our students, so I'm going to ask it and end with this for you, and the DA is getting a special preview. Do you read or listen to books?
So I have an Audible account.
Okay,
I have
so-
a 45-minute drive to and from.
And you're down here 3 days a week at least.
At least 3 days a week. Right now, I'm going to work through the Anatomy of Peace.
Okay.
And
what's that about?
That one I haven't started yet. I just got
okay.
it's the next one. I'm just finishing up. Oh, I got to think of the name of it now. I listen to it all the time. I can't think of the name of it. It's about.
Is it fiction or nonfiction?
No, they're nonfiction. They're all leadership books.
Okay.
They're all books about. I can't think. It's a good title. It's about making people unhappy, or it's okay to make people upset, or something along those lines. But it's a book about.
Well, guess what? You're doing that.
I am. I absolutely am. But they're all leadership books. They're all self-improvement books. They're all ways about working with others and seeing things from different perspectives. So I'm kind of a person that sees things black and white and math and numbers, and it's about a lot of the books I read are about how to meet people at more of an emotional level, because I kind of sometimes lack that, and something I'm working on. So.
Well, Chairman, 28 minutes goes really quickly, and you adjusted your schedule for us. We appreciate this. We know we have a lot on the agenda. We hope you'll come back in the studio to give us an update. We do remind people you have about an hour and a half to vote. You can stick around for the next show, which is with Brittany Gome Antonacci, who is our DA, and she is going to be talking about the work of her office. She'll be on in just a moment. If you would like to send us your ideas for guests, you can send them to cozguytho@aol.com. On Thursday, we're going to have Auburn Police Chief Matthew Androsco in here, as well as Catherine Underhill, the new Executive Director of the Schweinfurth Art Center. But for the time being, thank you for watching. I'm Guy Cosentino for Cayuga Community College. Thank you for sticking around for the last 30 minutes, and we hope you'll stick around for another 30 in just a moment.